The first week home with your baby can feel overwhelming, full of love, exhaustion, a lot of questions. In this video, we're going to break down what really happens during those first few days as a new mom so you can feel prepared and supported. Hey y'all, my name is Nikki and this is the Aziza Experience. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. All right. So let's start at the hospital. You've given birth. What are the things that happen next? So there's several things that I have found typical the first few days of giving birth while at the hospital. I'm speaking from my own experience and after speaking to several women who had this experience in a similar hospital setting. So let me just say full disclosure, I'm not familiar with birthing centers, so this video is strictly about the traditional hospital birthing experience in the United States. So typically, mothers stay at the hospital for 2 to 3 days after giving birth vaginally, and if there aren't any complications with you or the baby. However, for a C-section, the typical duration is about 2 to 4 days, again, assuming there are no complications. The nurses will have you jump right into breastfeeding as soon as you physically can. Again, assuming there's no complications. And breastfeeding has to be done every couple of hours. Most hospitals have some breast lactation education on site, like a nurse or someone, a specialist, to help mothers that need it, especially for new mothers. Something to keep in mind, mamas, you will get very little to no sleep at the hospital. So just be prepared. I promise it's going to happen. I had no clue, so I hope this helps you new moms out there. Like people would say that, but I'm like, what do you mean I don't get any sleep? No, you really don't get any sleep. Maybe like little small snippets when you can, because there's constantly things that need to be done, like breastfeeding, shots, checking your blood pressure, checking your blood, or whatever it may be. During your time at the hospital, your baby's gonna receive vaccinations, and if you have a baby boy, you'll be given the opportunity to have them circumcised. If you decide to keep your placenta, they may have you sign a waiver. In the past, hospitals were not as open-minded about keeping it, but, as this has become more of a thing, it's been a little easier because before they used to make mothers jump through hoops in order to do so. So the demand has increased, and so it's just a little easier to get your placenta. I didn't have any issue. I just told them I want my placenta, and they said, okay, you'll have to sign a waiver. And I said, sure, perfectly fine. So during your stay, the hospital will also check your health, like I mentioned before, blood pressure, heart rate, to make sure you're okay. And if you need to take meds based on your medical history, they'll give you what you need. Chances are you can have visitors. You'll be able to have visitors at some point during that time while you're staying at the hospital, but always check the visiting hours and where your visitors can park, the cost, things like that, so people are fully aware beforehand. An on-site pediatrician will visit you during your stay there to evaluate the baby's health and progression in the first few days of their life before you are discharged. Nurses will have you fill out a Social Security card and birth certificate form, like application for your child or children if you have multiples. My hospital had me sign docs confirming that we take specific safety measures when we were home. So like no co-sleeping. Side note though, this was interesting. And I don't know if this is typical in other states, but it was in mine. So my partner and I are not married. And the hospital said that it was standard for them to ask mothers after they give birth, to have them sign a documentation if they wanted to, requesting child support while at the hospital. It is not what I expected, but it definitely happened, and they only do that for women that gave birth to children with men that they're not married to. So I thought that was very interesting. I was like, this is a little soon, but okay. If you've encountered that in your state, let me know. And like, let me know what state you're from, and what your experience was with that. Just leave a comment below. While at the hospital or shortly after discharge, you'll need to set up an appointment with a dedicated pediatrician for your baby in the first few days of being discharged. A lot of pediatricians have special times and procedures for newborns, so I'd recommend definitely finding out this information in advance. They'll let you know what you need to do. So I'm not sure if this is standard, but the pediatrician that we were seeing while in the hospital before being discharged made it very clear that the pediatric facility that we had selected in advance that, our son was going to go to, the facility she was very familiar with, said they would not allow us to set up an appointment until we received discharge papers. It's interesting because when I went to that facility, they didn't say that. So definitely call your pediatrician in advance of delivery to get an idea of what they expect. Let's talk about what happens after your discharge. So all those things happen, and maybe there's more to your experience at the hospital. And then they discharge you. When you're discharged, take literally every single piece of item they gave you to use. Everything you can take with you. You're paying for it anyway, so you might as well. So this could mean the perinatal materials, pumping materials, those blue, pink delivery blankets that are found in every single hospital in the United States. Boy, do they have a monopoly on that market. At the end of your stay, the nurse will want to see your baby seat to ensure you can travel safely home with baby. And this is regardless of whether you're driving yourself or taking like an Uber or taxi or something. Many hospitals will not let you leave with the baby before they see the baby seat. And in some cases, some hospitals even check to make sure that the seat is installed properly. So keep in mind, there are many municipals that have like free baby car seat checking stations. So like if you get a baby seat and you're like, I don't even know if we installed this properly, you can just put it in your car and then go to that the car seat checking station to see if everything pans out. I would definitely just Google search, in your area where you can do that if that's something you're interested in. So once you head home, the baby's experienced the world for the first time. And I found it helpful to keep our home quiet in the first couple of days so the baby wasn't startled, right? This is all very new to them. One thing that is guaranteed, which is a lovely thing, loved ones are going to try to visit you and the baby. That's wonderful, right? Having support and people who love you and your child is a wonderful, beautiful thing. However, and I do mean however, if you let it can become overwhelming to you and your baby. So what we did was I told mostly everyone I know who was planning to visit us, do not expect to visit us in the first month of my son being born. I made it very plain and clear. Except for a handful of people, which I could count on one hand. I had no problem being direct like this because that's just who I am. But if that's not the approach you want to take, you can simply send them an e-card or text message sharing a pic of your bundle of joy and ask them for time to get settled in for however long you decide before visiting. So it's a nice gesture because you're sending them a picture of the baby because everyone wants to see the baby. But then you're also coupling that with, hey, we're just asking for some space for the first few weeks or however much time you decide before you can get settled in and you're ready for visitors. And people should respect that. So once we started having visitors, even then I limited how many people could come all at once because I didn't want 10 people in our house, right? I was still healing. The baby's still getting familiar with this new space and his parents, so I just didn't want too much at one time. So at the end of the day, remember, outside of your baby's natural immunity, you're your baby's first line of defense. So wear that badge with confidence and don't feel bad for requesting things that are going to keep your baby safe. It's your job to do that and no one should make you feel bad about that. And if they make you feel bad about that, well, then that's their problem, not yours. Like I mentioned earlier, you will be instructed to breastfeed the baby every 2 to 3 hours. So I'd recommend having as much prepped as you possibly can at home upon your arrival. So this timeline, the 2 to 3 hours, may change depending on what your baby needs are. So the nurses and doctors at the hospital will let you know. Your body will be acclimating to breastfeeding. So the nurse may inform you what foods to eat to help keep your milk supply up. So a lot of times women will be told, like, eat a lot of protein to keep their milk supply up. But again, refer to your nurses and doctors for this information. If you had a vaginal birth, expect there to be some pain in the pocketbook area. I call it the pocketbook area. I found cooling pads a lifesaver. I had a ton of those, and I took some from the hospital. I also found Thinks panties really, really helpful because they were all encompassing down there in the pocketbook area rather than worrying about my little granny panties like slipping off with the elastic. And so I used the Things panties along with the cooling pads, and that it just was so perfect. And I used like the boy shorts one, so it like stayed in place. So another thing, this may be obvious to many, but for someone new to this, it may not be entirely. You will barely sleep. I think I mentioned this before, but I'm going to reinforce that again and say you're barely going to sleep. This is normal. It's not just in the hospital, but when you get home. The baby's circadian rhythm, which is the natural clock our body responds to regarding sleep-wake cycles, temperature, digestion, it's going to be underdeveloped. So you'll be adapting to them finding their own way in the first several weeks. If you're a new mom, you may feel overwhelmed, and this is normal and completely okay. Speak to someone you are comfortable with. Your mental and physical health is important for you and the baby. Also speak to a medical professional as needed. In addition, the hospital may check on you that first week to make sure you and the baby are okay. So don't feel embarrassed or ashamed to ask for help when you need it. This is their job, so, let them just do that. All right, that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more tips on motherhood. Until the next one, mama, and always remember to stay strong, stay soft, and stay rooted in your tribe. Mwah.